You're watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for joining me on another edition of Inside Automotive right here at CBT News. As we close out another dynamic year in retail automotive, we're taking a moment to reflect on some of the successes, takeaways, and challenges. Joining us is Dennis Gingrich, the Sales and Finance Director at Niello Company, to share insights on what opportunities were out there for 2024 and what he feels about in terms of 2025. It's going to be a big year ahead. So Dennis, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
Sure. So looking back at 2024, I can't believe that I just said that because these years are flying by. But what's been the biggest, personal takeaway for you in retail automotive?
I think this year overall has just been, as I look across the industry, talk to people, and really specifically here at our location here in Sacramento, our 10 locations, is just really a return to fundamentals, things that have always been, important or bedrock of running a successful operation, is really going back and doubling down on, inventory turn, lead response time, getting a great customer experience. I think 2024 we were getting a little bit away from what's the newest mousetrap that we were looking for to deal with COVID, to just getting back to we're in sales again.
Yeah, that's for sure. Many dealers have said that, we're back to this race to the bottom, so to speak, on gross profit. I'm sure you felt a little bit of that in the store, right?
Yeah, we're definitely, we're not getting that COVID money, which, in hindsight, it was fun at the time, but it certainly wasn't great for the development of our people. And, I think we're just back to competing on value, a good experience, and obviously, pretty much everybody makes a good car nowadays. So
yeah,
it's just who can give that good experience and get the customers in, and so we can win some business.
Sure. Many dealers that I've spoken with in the last 6 months have said that they're trying to work these deals out as they come in, and the person owes a whole lot of money on that trade-in that they bought 3 years ago. And of course, that used car isn't worth today, what it was bringing, or these used cars weren't worth today what they were bringing just a couple of years ago. So there's these big, deficiencies to deal with. A, did you find that to be the case? And B, how do you work through that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've definitely had our challenges with negative equity being a thing. I know our stores see it. I see contracts, as I'm doing deal jacket reviews and so forth, where you'll see some pretty large negative equity. I think broadly speaking, just given the segment that we operate in that luxury segment, I think our customers are maybe a little bit more equipped to find ways out of that, having maybe some larger down payments and in credit, compared to maybe a domestic store or, maybe a more mainstream car. But, it's definitely something we see. There's deals we don't make because of that, just because we can't get the lending. But, I know it's definitely a thing. Individuals that I talk with in the industry that, work at other brands, it's definitely a challenge. And it's just, I think the key to that, if you're a dealer, regardless of the brand you represent, I think it's incumbent upon talking to your people about making sure that you're submitting these deals out to the lenders and giving the lender an opportunity to make a decision how much they're going to lend to see if you can make a deal. Lenders, we've read stuff that, they're tightening up, but I think, maybe with some enthusiasm about the future with the new administration, I think they feel that it's going to loosen up. And, I think it's another cycle. I've seen this movie before. It's just ebbs and flows, and you just got to go back to, again, fundamentals, submit the deal to the lenders and see what they can do for you.
Sure. Since you mentioned the new administration, there's some concerns out there that while Trump is very pro-business and rates are continuing to come down and things are looking pretty good, low unemployment rates, and even gas prices are starting to drop across the country. However, he keeps using that tariff word. It scares a lot of dealers. Obviously, it scares consumers too, but dealers and OEMs alike. What's your take on that? Do you think that could put us in a real bind in the next year if those go through?
It certainly could cause some challenges. I mean, right now, affordability. We look at, more and more people are leasing cars to find an affordable payment. If you had some tariffs come in there, I think that could add to the challenge. My opinion is I think, and I'm not super big into politics, but I think a lot of it might be a little bit of posturing. If you just look broadly across, the news and different stuff, we're already seeing other countries on different issues kind of maybe change the way they interact with the United States on the global stage. So for me, it just might be a shot across the bow, and maybe there's something there, maybe there's not. But I do know this: I'm not going to control it at the Niello Company. I just got to make sure our team's ready to deal with it and find solutions to get people in cars at payments they can afford.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of some of the technology, were there certain areas of technology that you felt as though it changed things for you over the last year? I mean, obviously we're hearing a lot about AI, and I know that plays a big role today, but was there anything that you believe really made a big improvement?
I would say AI is really a big deal right now. I know internally we're looking at making some changes going into the new year. I really believe right now this is the age of instant gratification. You see people post stuff on social media, they're immediately looking for a like. You get on Amazon. I know, I would get upset when my Amazon package couldn't make it tomorrow. First world problems, right? But
That's right.
I think people are looking for answers and information, immediately. So I think finding, AI solutions that really enhance our employees' work experience, right? Take them out of some of the minutia, the busy work, the stuff they truly don't like doing, and finding a good, I guess, pliable AI solution that has some customizations that can meet the Niello Company, how we want to be represented to our customers, right? And flexibility in getting people information. I was on a call yesterday, as a matter of fact, and it was talking about lead response time, which has always been important. And the survey they shared that if people aren't getting answers within 3 minutes, they're moving on, right?
Yeah.
And getting a human being to do that all the time,
Yeah.
it's a challenge. Could it be done maybe in a vacuum?
Yeah.
But we don't work in a vacuum,
Right.
So I think stuff like that, that's focus. And when you look at internally, about 80% of our sales happen within 3 days of receiving a lead. So we just got to be on it quick,
Yep.
have the right information with a good message, and communicate really effective if we're going to continue to be successful in our market.
Yeah, for sure. The EV adoption continues to grow, although not at the rate we would all like it to. But how do you see this trend shaping the market going into 2025? Are people coming in and asking more about your EVs?
We're in Sacramento, California. I think we're one of the best market EV sales, in the country.
Yeah.
Right now we've got some recall issues with Volkswagen and the ID4, which made up a significant portion of our new Volkswagen sales.
Sure.
But broadly speaking, we look at our BMW brands. We're doing a good job with the EV. Volvo, we continue to do well. I think it's going to continue to go up. I just don't think we're going to see that that exponential increase like we've seen. And I know internally we've brought some tools onto our website that we put in the hands of our salespeople and our customers, so they can really wrap their head around what driving an EV looks like. And on a personal note, I drive a big Ram diesel truck, which is, I don't even need that much truck, but I drove an EV. I drove a Porsche Taycan. I know people, it's a Porsche, but I drove that for the better part of a month and a half. And I would argue for most people, an EV it's the car to have. It was so convenient. Yeah. I didn't need fancy charger. I drive it, I plug it in, I got everything I used yesterday back.
Yep.
And I'm ready to go. So I think it's up to us as dealers to educate our customers, make sure they're educated, and get them to drive the car, not just the customers, but our employees, so they can
100%
really
agree. Yes.
knowledge the field.
That's right. Because, recently there was a study and it said that this was going back a few months, but less than 5% of today's automotive professionals drive an EV. And that is a problem because they're on the front line of working with those customers, either call, click, or come into your showrooms. And if the sales department's not sold on an EV, chances are they're going to stay away from it in many cases because they don't understand it, or they don't have the answers that the customers might ask, or they themselves aren't sold on it. And that could be a real problem in the industry. I think you're right. More dealer groups need to make sure that their salespeople are, if they don't buy one, that they're at least driving them on a regular basis, right?
Yeah, well, and I think, anecdotally, our Acura store, give a shout out to our general manager, Jimmy, over there. He runs a great operation, but when we got that new ZDX through Acura, he all but mandated that every employee takes one of those home for a couple nights and really get familiar with the car, the look, the feel, how it drives.
Great idea.
Lo and behold, we were on the podium for #1 ZDX sales in the entire country. And there are bigger markets than Sacramento. So
that's great.
If you are working in Sacramento, don't take that advice. Everybody else can do it if you're not in our market.
That's right. That's right. All you Sacramento subscribers to CBT, forget what you just heard. So now, listen, you mentioned Volkswagen, and obviously there's many of your Volkswagen dealers out there. And your colleagues are all up in arms about Scout as they come into the industry, and they want to be the next Tesla and sell directly to consumers. What's your take on that as a Volkswagen dealer?
Well, obviously, we don't like it. I know, I'm sure the CNCDA, they're great. They're looking after the dealer body, and I know they're going to be working on that. But, the franchise model has been around forever. I think broadly speaking, the model has served everybody well. I do think, from those that would advocate for not having a franchise model, we're probably had a bad experience with a dealer somewhere. And, just because you have one bad experience with one person doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
And I do think dealers need to continue to work, going forward at providing a great, transparent experience to kind of minimize the call for the, direct to consumer. Because I do know this, when I have a challenge with a customer that stems from a product issue, I'm dealing with it.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think the OEMs are equipped to deal with it. I don't think, broadly speaking, they want to deal with it. And if they're going that direction, maybe careful what you wish for, because it's not always sun and switches dealing with that kind of stuff.
Man, there's no question about it. What's your take on 2025? Good year? Tough year?
Yeah, I think 2025 is going to be great. I think, now that the election is behind us, which is great. I don't really care what side of the aisle you're on. I think, October was a challenging month, and I just think there was a lot of noise out in the world that I think prevented people from living their lives and doing what they need to do. And, November shaped up really good. December's looking great. But I think 2025 is really going to be a good year. Consumer confidence, all the things you mentioned at the top of the call between unemployment rates and, all that stuff. I think it's going to be good. And, I think as I look about it, what we're doing internally to prepare to make sure we have the best 2025 is just working on our processes. We do want to meet the customer where they want to be. I know that's an old cliche, but we actually have individuals that are dedicated to facilitating 100% online transaction. And if they want to get off that bus and come into store, we'll welcome it. And, we'll float between those two tracks. So we've got people dedicated to that. I think leasing is going to continue to make a comeback next year as people look for affordable payments. So we'll be working with our F&I managers to make sure their lease presentation is buttoned up. But, and I'm also just looking forward. I think we're going to have some more common sense regulatory stuff for the auto industry with this new administration. So
yes,
I'm fired up about 2025. It's going to be a good year as long as we stay rooted in fundamentals and taking care of the customers. We'll all have nice paychecks.
There you go, folks. Who doesn't want a nice paycheck, right?
I can't find them.
That's right.
I'm not looking for them either, Jim.
Dennis Gingrich, Sales and Finance Director of the Niello Company. I know everybody is familiar out there with that company. You guys are doing great work out there and taking good care of not just your customers, but your associates. And everybody seems to be, rowing in the same direction and loving their job there. So you've done great work. So Dennis, thank you so much for joining us on the show. And as I said, love to follow up with you to see how the first quarter is moving along.
Awesome. Sounds great, man. Thanks for doing what you do for our industry. I think it's great.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.